It's my pleasure to sit here with Hannah Stabler, no relation to Kenny Stabler. I asked earlier for all the Raiders fans out there. Hannah has been at the forefront of social media and influence marketing for her entire career. And we had an awesome conversation this morning, and I'm really excited to talk about what's worked for Hannah. And, you know, being in the weather space like I am, everyone's an influencer because everyone loves posting pictures of sunsets. And but you have more of a challenge with hot dog, where me and the team went last night, watched the Dodgers crush the Mets. Thank you.
Thank you guys for coming.
But, you know, being at the forefront of influencer marketing and social media, what worked from the beginning, and where have you taken that?
So a little bit about my background. I've been in the food and beverage space, specifically in restaurants, for almost 10 years. Most of that time was spent on the agency side for QSR brands, but in the last 5 years, I spent more time on the brand side and consulting. I started off, and I'm so disappointed, I don't know if Pearl's in here, but one of the people on the community team, and Pearl doesn't even know this, that's why I'm bringing it up, Carrie Keenan, she is one of the people on the Brand Innovators team. She was actually one of the first people to ever teach me about social media when we were at an agency together. So my experience is very deeply rooted in community management. That's where I started my career back when, you know, the influencers were on Twitter, and that was like the core social media platform for a lot of brands. And so, you know, throughout the last decade, as you said, everyone nowadays is an influencer, but selling food is fun. And so there's been a lot of creative ways that we've been able to promote products throughout that time, launch new things, and also we'll talk a lot about authenticity and creating unique experiences for our guests. You know, at Hot Dottie specifically, and we'll go into this in a little bit, we don't rely on heavy discounting. We rely on providing top-notch experiences, and so that's from the food quality to the service to, you know, in-store trials and different like promos we're doing, like scratch-offs and things like that, so that everyone, you know, is able to come in and have a good experience. So we'll dive a little more into that here in a moment.
Yeah, I think that Amanda and Lauren can attest that Cameron was our boy last night at the East 5th location.
Yeah.
I mean, he was awesome. And I think that the location represented everything about what we wanted coming to Austin and experience that, right? So by location, as you expand as a brand, how do you pinpoint those influencers from a local level, but still maintain the brand integrity?
You know, I'm newer to the brand. I only joined back in May, so I'm still getting my feet wet in a few areas, but I'll tell you how we've evolved our strategy in that 5 months. We were really primarily only working with foodies in certain, what we would call struggling markets that we are in. I really changed that to thinking about, you know, a triangle. You've got your smaller micro influencers, your mid-tier influencers, but really the sharpest expression of our brand is people who are shaping culture. That doesn't necessarily to us mean pop culture, but for instance, you know, prior to joining Hot Dottie, I was on the El Pollo Loco team for 2.5 years. It's a Latin, you know, Mexican-inspired brand, so there was a lot of heritage there, and so it's really figuring out, you know, again, culture doesn't just mean pop culture, like what community groups can you activate? Again, what someone just said in a couple previous panels, like what sets us apart in terms of our experience. You know, we are an elevated product. For those who don't know what Hot Dottie is, we're a burger bar. We were founded in 2010 by 4 friends, a guy, Chuck, and 2 Larrys. They wanted to, it's a funny story the way it came to be a brand, but you know, they really wanted to create a burger bar that was just different. You were able to come, kick your feet back. We've got, you know, we celebrate the best in craft beverages, so you can get a burger, some great fries that are, you know, sourced well, sustainably, like produced, and like you said, come watch the Dodgers game, get a good drink, have some good food, and you feel good about it. And to your point, mentioning our person Cameron, we really look at our new hires. They need to be hot dotty people. They need to be able to give someone from out of town those local recommendations and really, showcase what our brand is about. So I was really happy to hear that you had a good experience last night.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, I'm sorry. I have a few notes here. So, for influencer marketing for major brands, learning to balance creativity with strategy and authenticity. We've gone through like how people connect through food, through going out with friends and having a drink. That authenticity is so important. How do you define that and actually find that talent that you'll match yourself with?
I think it's really important for marketers to remember that authenticity doesn't mean being flawless. It means being real. We'll have a panel after this where we focus, a lot on activating Gen Z through authenticity, but essentially, transparency is your best friend. At Hop Dotty, we are very proud to support regenerative farming. So we partner with Force of Nature Meats for their beef and bison, 100% grass-fed pasture-raised meats. We partner with Vital Farms, their pasture-raised eggs. So, for us, it's really finding those fundamental values that are important to us and then activating influencers against that. So, we wouldn't typically think of working with gym people or, those other types of aspirational creators, but they are the ones that are the most passionate about what we are passionate about. So I think it's finding a good synergy between those two things, and then, we'll talk about relationships here in a moment, but I am chronically online, which, some people in this room, I'm sure you're the same, but, again, in the last few months, we launched a partnership. I'm sure some of you in this room saw the Netflix documentary about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. I've always been a really, really big fan of that cheer team, and when I watched that, I thought of our core values and authenticity, and Reese Weaver, who was kind of the head of that documentary, she really shone through a lot of our core values. So we signed a 3-month partnership with them. They brought like 25 family members after the Cowboys kickoff to celebrate with us. And so I think from a relationship standpoint, she's an athlete. She can, speak to our quality story. So it's, again, when you're looking for those creators or you're looking at trends online that you want to jump into, it's like, does this really marry back to like our core values?
It's so funny. Anyone have teenage kids? Or my son's always like, I'm like, do you want to watch TV? He's like, no, on YouTube.
Yeah.
Or on TikTok. And it's like, all right, how do you, that authenticity, but at the same time, it's also about the political climate, right? How do you not, it's such a fine line, not tipping that balance. Like,
it's funny you bring this up, and I'll give you guys a peek under the hood of an upcoming campaign, but we have a burger of the month every month. Last month it was the Okie Dokie Smash, which is our rendition of a smash burger. I do have to say, it was pretty freaking good. And we're going to be bringing it back actually the week between Halloween and the election, and we're kind of coding it as like get smashed at Hop Dotties. Like, we're going to have the Okie Dokie Smash is coming back. We've got a couple of drink specials. So to your question, we're a very irreverent brand. I will say, I come from a lot of a more corporatized background working for national and global brands, but this is the first brand I've worked for where my VP says yes more than she says no. And one of the key qualities she told me about was we like to ask for forgiveness versus permission. So it's nice to be able to kind of run with those types of things and not have to really worry too much about a very strong line. It's more of a blurred line for us specifically.
Yeah, I love that. Like, being in Austin and being at Hop Dotty last night, I was like, they're just being themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's a huge part of it. From the folks you hire there to the people that you have, influencing audiences that you want to reach. And that's an interesting thing. Like, you've got these influencers that work, right? How do you expand that?
You know, I want to add something onto that. I feel like influence doesn't just come from creators. You know, my second week at Hot Dotty, I was scrolling through TikTok, and I'm sure many of you have seen those like give back creators that go out and hand out food to the homeless, or they're, you know, saying, hey, do you want chips or this, and there's like $1 in the box. I come across one of those creators, and there was a homeless man in Houston called Fernando. Long story short, 2 days later, he had a job in our kitchen, and he's now one of our full-time employees, and he's been there for 4 months. So I think influence, and to my point about being a Hot Dotty person, I think everyone that works for a brand really cares about true, like, growing community. And our motto, one of our mottos is we believe in helping motivated people achieve their dreams. So, you know, for us as a brand, and this comes from our marketing to the people in our stores, like, we don't care if you're here to just get through a couple months of school, or if you want to make a career in the restaurant industry. You know, we really lead with authenticity and transparency, and we've had a really great training team that's helped us embody that through our now 46 locations.
That's awesome. In a former life, I worked in the entertainment industry. We worked with the Kardashians, and every post cost a certain amount of money. It was like one and done, right?
Yes.
But you have lasting relationships, and what's the difference between that one post or that one thing versus that lasting relationship, or even creating those new relationships to expand your audience?
And it's not to say I haven't done the one-off transactions.
Of course.
You know, I think they can be great for, I guess we'll say, conflating numbers a little bit. But no, I think developing relationships with influencers is twofold, right? I can tell very, very quickly, like we had an event a couple weeks ago for Hot Dotty, and I was just sending out media invites. You can very clearly tell who's in it for a transaction and who actually likes your brand. So that's the first point I'll make. We, you know, as I said, prior to me joining Hot Dotty, we had really focused in a couple of markets for our PR and influencer marketing, and I was like, we're across 8 states, like we're as far west as California, and we're in Florida. So we need to be talking to a more national audience, and so through the relationships I built in my old role, El Toy Loco, it really taught me that, you know, they're people too, and we're humans behind a brand. They're not just like working with Hot Dotty, they're working with Hannah at Hot Dotty. So something that I really like to do is celebrate their wins and them personally. So like I become friends with them, and it's their birthday, we're gonna send them flowers. You know, if they've got an event, hey, we'll cater it and we'll give you food. It can't just be, hey, I need you to post this month. It's really, you know, building a friendship, and again, that translates into earned media. So I'll just give another quick example. It was National Tequila Day at the end of July. I don't even one of our favorite things our customers love is our tequila and our margaritas. We have in Texas and Florida, we have a roadie, which is a bag of 64 ounces of our frozen margarita bliss. It's really good. And we had that on offer for National Tequila Week. And, you know, again, we hadn't really done a lot of traditional PR packages and stuff like that. So, you know, we're an Austin brand. We're from Austin, but we haven't really activated creators here. So I took my butt down to Target. I bought $30 little cooler backpacks. They were tan and real cute. Filled them up with ice and 3 roadies, and I dropped them to like 12 creators around town. And what that's brought to us is almost $100,000 in earned media value since that moment, because they re-engaged with us. Now, you know, they're sharing us on stories and they're ordering to go and all that kind of stuff. And then there's another big creator here, Courtney Shields. I think she has like 1.1 million on Instagram. She saw her friends posting, and then she came in, and she actually came 5 days in a row and got burger bowls and posted them on her story. So it's almost like a domino effect. If you really treat people well and, you know, humanize your brand, it'll go a long way for you.
I love that roadie idea. In Connecticut, I get thrown in jail for 20 years.
We tried to fight the law on it, and it did not work. So currently, we can only do it in Florida.
I love it. I'm moving.
You're always welcome.
So special events like opening of a new restaurant in a location like San Diego, or launch of a new burger, like a lot has to go into that, and then bringing the personality in to represent that. What goes into something like that? It's a huge event and a huge expansion for the brand.
Yeah, so I have two examples here. The first one I'll give for an NRO. So right now we are planning 2 NROs in Houston. You look at the core demographic of the people who actually come to our restaurant. Again, we are a little more elevated, so you're going to be paying $10 to $15 for a burger, but it's a really good quality burger. Again, a lot of people, especially in the restaurant space, we don't rely on heavy discounting, and a lot of other brands do. So for us, it's number one, how do we tell the story of here's why we should be your new neighborhood spot, and it's the vibe and the ambiance, and music is big to us. We've got photos of artists in all of our restaurants. We've got rock music playing. It's a whole vibe. So I think that's one thing. But with Houston specifically, Houston rap culture and sneaker culture and hip hop culture is huge there. So for me, I'm wanting to tap into more of that demographic and more of that community in order to help drive new faces to the brand that may not necessarily know about us or see us. So I think it's really important, especially as you go into brand new markets like at El Pollo Loco. When I was at the brand, we opened in Denver. It was our first ever restaurant. It was really important for us to understand that community and what makes them tick. And so I think that's really important. And I forgot my second example, so we'll just. The event that I had a couple weeks ago. So we brought on Coca-Cola as a partner earlier this year. They came to us and they're like, we want to do something and activate around ACL, but we don't really know what to do. Can we use your restaurant? We're like, oh yeah, not just our restaurant. We can shut down the whole, side parking alley of our South Congress restaurant. So that's what we did. We shut down the side alley. We had Dulce Vida Tequila and Garrison Brothers, who are 2 of our liquor partners, come out. Coca-Cola brought their Airstream. We had exclusive merch from Hot Dottie and Coca-Cola with a whole embroidery station. So again, that was an experience for not only people just walking down South Congress getting ready for ACL, but also for some of our biggest fans. And I unfortunately was out of the country. I couldn't make the event, but the videos that came out of that, and we interviewed a couple people, what was your favorite part of this event? I'm a Hot Dottie all the time with my friends, at least once a week. So now I actually have a piece of really cool merch that, shows my love for the brand. So, when it comes to influencers, again, to my point at the very beginning, when I invited folks to that event, it was very clear to me, oh, do you have Uber codes? No, I don't have an Uber code. And that, just kind of shows me, whereas other people are like, heck yeah, I love the brand. I'll be there. What time can I come? So I think it's paying attention to those features too.
Yeah, absolutely. And, lastly, it's come up before, in the influencer space, and influencer, I should say, and in humanizing the brand and making that local connection that you do so well. What does your CFO say? The KPIs behind that?
So we have a new CFO. He's wonderful. Him and I joined roughly around the same time. Hot Dottie we have 46 locations in 8 states. Over the last couple of years, we haven't really opened too many, but over the next 2 to 3 years, we're looking to pretty much double in size. So it's a very new time for the brand. It's also a new strategic direction for the brand. So, for me, being an influencer, it's we're spending how much on what? What did that get us? And so for me, it's, the way that we do our influencer marketing, for instance, from a CFO standpoint, it's not, oh, I made this X ROI, but it's hey, here's how much earned media we drove. Just from, like I said, dropping off the roadies to people. It's like that drove almost $80,000 in earned media, and I know that because I had asked these people for their rates, and some of these people are charging astronomical amounts. But it's interesting to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, awesome. So I think we're almost out of time, or we are. Should we take some questions?
Yeah.
Anyone?
I'd love to. Yes.
I love the story of the partnership with the live events. Now, based on the success of that was a big event. Coach came to you. It was ACL. How does that set a foundation for you guys doing more localized events and experiences?
Great question. Yeah, and I will say we did not promote the event at all. Like, no promotional dollars. We threw up an Eventbrite and invited people and put it on our stories. So we really already have like that cult following that wants to show up for us. We've done some experiences, like Dos Hombres is a tequila partner of ours. Those guys came into the restaurant, and we've done kind of pop-up experiences like that. But I definitely have seen in my career how it can be helpful. So we've got some fun stuff up our sleeves. You'll have to follow us on Instagram so you can know more at the time. But I do have plans for more like that.
I've never set foot into a hot doggy, but it's top of my list now. It sounds like a quintessentially Austin brand. How do you balance that when you go to new markets, so new states? Do you just export Austin, or do you lean into those local cultures?
We export Austin. So number one, I'm from the UK too, so I love to hear the accent of a fellow Englander. But no, I mean, we talked about that this morning, right? You've never been to Hot Dottie and you asked the exact same question. We replicate our restaurant in every market. So if you think about what makes Austin unique, I guess, we'll talk about the flair of music and the inspiration and spirit of music. That's something, again, we have rock music in all of our restaurants. Our South Congress location is the only one to have just artists put portrait photos, but in all the rest of our restaurants, you have in moment, in concert, crowd. There's photos of music everywhere. Our old branding, if you go online, and again, in most of our restaurants, we used to do kind of like the white paper, just crazy posters with crazy artwork on them. We have poster walls in our restaurants. So we, again, embody all of those things and literally duplicate in a new place. And I think that's what makes us stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, some of the local art last night was Amanda mentioned that's a proper martini glass that they painted.
Yeah.
We were excited about that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Any other questions, guys? Well, thank you to Brand Innovators for having us, and
Yes.
thank you for sitting up here with me, and on to the next, I guess. Thank you.
Yeah.